Imagine spending your whole life working twice as hard just to prove you belong. Imagine carrying the weight of your community, your family, your ancestors, every single time you step into a room. Now imagine walking into the hospital where you've dedicated your life to saving lives, only to be handed a mop and told to clean up the floors. That was the reality for Dr. Malcolm Harris, a brilliant black surgeon, a man who had fought tooth and nail to earn his white coat. And yet, on his very first day at a prestigious new hospital, he was misjudged, dismissed, and humiliated, mistaken for the janitor. But what nobody knew was that by the end of the day, this same janitor would be the only person standing between life and death in an operating room. And when the truth finally came out, the whole hospital would never forget the lesson they learned. Dr. Malcolm Harris wasn't just good at what he did, he was exceptional. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, the son of a schoolteacher and a postal worker, Malcolm had carried big dreams since he was a child. His mother always told him, "Baby, you'll have to work twice as hard to get half as much. But don't you let that stop you. You belong anywhere your mind and your heart can take you." So he worked. Long nights, endless study sessions, medical school loans that would have broken most people. He graduated top of his class. And now, after years of sacrifices, he had finally landed a position at one of the most prestigious hospitals in the state. This was supposed to be his fresh start, his chance to prove not only that he belonged, but that he could lead. But life had other plans. The morning of his first day, Malcolm walked into the gleaming hospital lobby. He wore a crisp white shirt, dress slacks, and carried a leather bag slung over his shoulder. His white coat, still freshly pressed, was folded neatly inside. But before he could even make it to the elevators, a nurse glanced at him, frowned, and pointed toward a utility closet. "Hey, housekeeping's that way. We've got a spill on the 3rd floor." Malcolm blinked, stunned. He opened his mouth to correct her, but before he could, a security guard chimed in, "Yeah, man, grab a mop. 3rd floor East Wing. Let's move." His heart sank. He hadn't even put his coat on yet. He hadn't introduced himself. And already, they saw him as less. Not a doctor, not a surgeon, just the janitor. As Malcolm rode the elevator up, gripping the strap of his bag so tightly his knuckles turned white, his mind raced. He thought of every late night in the library, every time he had been the only black face in a lecture hall, every microaggression he had swallowed, every time someone had asked if he was sure he was the doctor and not a nurse or an orderly. And now this, day one, his biggest opportunity yet, and he was invisible. "No," he told himself, staring at his reflection in the elevator doors. "Not invisible. Not today." By the time he reached the surgical floor, whispers were already circulating. Some staff smirked when he walked by. Others eyed him with confusion, as if wondering why the janitor was carrying a medical briefcase. Malcolm tried to shake it off, but the sting was real. Just then, an alarm blared. A code blew. Emergency. A patient had collapsed in the cardiac wing. Nurses and doctors rushed past him, but in the chaos, someone shoved a mop into his hands and barked, "Stay out of the way, janitor." And for a split second, Malcolm froze. He could either obey, or he could step into the storm. As he rounded the corner, Malcolm saw it, a man in his 60s, seizing on a gurney. His monitors were flatlining, and the room, chaotic. The lead surgeon was late. Residents scrambled with no direction. Malcolm dropped the mop. His bag hit the floor with a thud. He ripped it open and pulled out his white coat. "Move," he commanded, his voice firm but calm. Nobody listened. "Move," he shouted again, louder this time. This time, the room froze. Nurses blinked at him. Residents hesitated. One of them scoffed, "What are you doing? You're not even." But before the sentence could finish, Malcolm was already at the patient's side. Hand steady, voice steady. His training took over. And if you're watching this right now, let me ask you, how many times have people judged you before they knew your story? How many times have you been underestimated because of your skin, your name, or where you come from? If this story resonates, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it, because these stories deserve to be heard. Seconds turned into minutes. The patient's pulse gone. The monitors still flatline. Malcolm barked orders with precision. Epinephrine now. Chest compressions at 120 per minute. Intubation kit, let's go, people. Still, doubt lingered in the air. A nurse whispered, "Is he even allowed to be doing this?" Another muttered, "We're going to get sued." But Malcolm tuned it all out. This wasn't about him. It wasn't about proving himself. It was about saving a life. And then, a beep. Another. And another. The flat line broke. The patient's pulse returned. Gasps filled the room. Slowly, the color drained back into the man's face. The monitors steadied. Malcolm exhaled, finally stepping back. He wiped sweat from his brow. And only then did he realize the entire room was staring at him. In silence. In shock. One nurse finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Doctor?" Malcolm straightened his coat, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "Yes, Dr. Harris. Cardiothoracic surgery." The room erupted into stunned silence. Word spread fast. By the end of the day, everyone in the hospital knew the story. The janitor, who had saved a life in the operating room. Some staff avoided eye contact with him. Others apologized awkwardly. But for Malcolm, the validation wasn't in their apologies. It was in the steady rise and fall of the patient's chest. It was in the reminder that when it came down to it, skill, not prejudice, saved lives. That night, as he walked out of the hospital, the same security guard who had told him to grab a mop earlier stopped him. The guard's voice was sheepish. "Sorry, document. I didn't know." Malcolm paused, adjusted his bag, and simply replied, "You will now." Dr. Malcolm Harris went on to become one of the most respected surgeons in the hospital. But the lesson of that first day never left him. Every time he stepped into an operating room, he carried more than a scalpel. He carried a truth no one could erase. That a man's worth isn't written on his skin. It's written in the lives he touches. And for Malcolm Harris, that was more than enough. If this story moved you, take a second right now to subscribe to Melanin Chronicles. Because every week, we bring you more powerful stories of resilience, justice, and truth. And together, we can make sure voices like Dr. Harris's are never ignored again.